Tonight, I want to talk about this E word, and that E word is exhaustion. Many of us are walking around and we are feeling so tired all the time. Even when we get some sleep, we still wake up and we just feel exhausted. So, I want to tell you one missing piece that is why you are likely feeling so tired and exhausted all the time. And so I want to share that with you. So I want you to think about our vehicles. I love to use this as an analogy because most of us drive cars. And if we don't, we understand how the mechanics of a car works, right? And so I want you to think about the fuel tank or the gas tank, right? Many cars have varying levels of a number of gallons that they can hold. And based on those gallons, how many miles or how much ground can be covered, give or take, depending on like wind, velocity, the weather, whether you're driving in the city or on the highway, right? And so the reason why I like to use the car and the fuel as an example is because it has a limited capacity. And that limited capacity means that after you've gone so far, at some point you have to stop and refuel. And we are that very same way, okay? And so, what I want for you to know is that if you are always tired and always exhausted and just seem like you can't get your stamina and your energy up, it's likely because you are not really well acquainted with what your capacity is, okay? It's like, how much energy do I have to get done X, Y, or Z in any given 24-hour period? Because that's actually the realm that we have to work within, or that's the ground on a daily basis that we have to cover. And so it's important for us to start to really understand what our capacity is. Now, let me just tell you a couple of little tidbits for you to think about, okay? A lot of times we are handling business in terms of work and family and community and church and children and relationship and whatever the case may be. And we don't really consult our capacity. We try to gauge or what I would say match our capacity to what the demands on us are. And that's unrealistic. Okay. So this talk is about you actually taking a moment, slowing down, and maybe considering not trying to match your capacity to what's being demanded of you, but to really fully get acquainted with the capacity that you have so that you can be a better steward over your time, your resource of energy. All right. So let me tell you a couple of things that you need to take into consideration when you're thinking about your capacity, okay? Because there are certain things, even like with a vehicle, like I said, there's different mileage that you can get on the highway versus if you're driving like in the city, right? So when it comes to our human capacity, we have to think about the conditions that we may be dealing with that can actually lower our capacity. One of them that I want to address first is grief, right? If you have suffered a loss or experienced some type of loss. And it doesn't just have to be a death. It could be a loss of a relationship, or a loss of a job, or a loss of community, or a loss of some property, or something like that. That is going to take away some of your capacity. Now, what we try to do in a lot of cases is we try to do what I call operate on top of those types of experiences, situations, because we got to keep going, right? Or we at least feel like we got to keep going. Okay, so that's one area that can really diminish our capacity. Okay. Another way that our capacity could be lessened is if we are ill, like if we don't feel well, like if there is maybe even chronic illnesses or things that you have to take medication for. Those things can lessen or weaken our us from being able to operate at full capacity. Okay, so another place to look in terms of understanding what could be maybe robbing or stealing from your capacity is when you miss the opportunity to do the three things that are basic to our self-care. And those things are: one, making sure that you are getting oxygen. Oxygen is like free life, right? You don't have to pay for it. But a lot of times when we get busy and we get overwhelmed or we have a lot going, we shallow breathe instead of really allowing full deep breathing. The second one is hydration. Now, I'm saying hydration and not just drinking water, because there is a difference, right? We definitely need liquid. We need water. We also need to make sure that we're hydrated. Hydration means making sure that we have liquid and water that gives us minerals. Okay, so that's the second thing. Many of us are suffering from dehydration. Some symptoms of that is lack of focus, brain fog, irritability, having trouble sleeping, or whatever the case may be. So it's kind of creates a little bit of a cycle when we start neglecting the three basics. And then the third one is connected to what I just said. It's getting quality nightly rest. Okay, quality nightly rest. That does not mean pull some all-nighters and then try to catch up. Okay, so we need to have at least a minimum of 7 hours of rest so that we can get into that full deep sleep. And when we rest, we repair. And that increases our capacity to do the things that we need to do, whether that is in our career, in our work, with our families, whatever the case may be. Resting is very crucial. Getting oxygen into our blood is very crucial, and having our minerals be restored through hydration and drinking water is very crucial. Okay, so that's the other way that we can start to diminish our capacity. So the last one that I want to talk about in terms of diminishing our capacity is when we have some unhealed trauma that has happened to us. It could be trauma when we were a child. It could also be traumatic things that has happened in our adulthood. So childhood trauma could be neglect, abuse, things like that, or even seeing or witnessing something very terrible or scary. It's case by case, individual basis in terms of how you react. So trauma is not just what happened, but how a person reacts to what happened. Okay. And then trauma as adults could even be something like living in a global pandemic, or being involved in bad weather, or whatever the case may be. So remember, trauma is about not just what happened, but how we react and respond to what happened. Because trauma, it changes us from being able to function at full capacity, and it causes us to function differently. It causes us to function around an area where our system is wounded and thrown off. And so therefore, we relate to ourselves, we relate to others, and we relate to the world through the lens of feeling like there's some part of us that we have to reserve energy to protect. Okay, so those are the ways that our capacity can be compromised or depleted, and cause us to find it a little bit harder to kind of address or face, or take care of the things that we need to take care of. Why we may feel exhausted. Okay, so I wanted to just share these things with you because awareness is key. So when we know more, then we can actually step up to the plate and do more. So what this means is that perhaps there may be something that you need to take a break from, or something that you need to give yourself a little bit more room, a little bit more space in terms of responsibilities or obligations, or taking on more instead of giving yourself room to work through these pieces where maybe you are in need of more capacity. Everybody deserves and needs and should and do and will, after this video, right, take the time to pour back into themselves in ways that increases their capacity. Now, you might say, well, what is that? You know what? That is according to you. But I like to ask this question to support us in figuring out what that might be if you don't know. What brings you joy? And what's the answer to that? Engage in it, even if it's for a short while every day. Now, some people are like, well, I don't know what brings me joy, or what brings me joy is unattainable. I can't go to Hawaii, or I can't go on a yacht, or I can't buy me a whatever expensive thing, right? You may not be able to actually do those things right now, but you can certainly look at a picture of it. You can visualize it, right? So I'm offering to you an opportunity to put some intention around building yourself up so that you have more energy and more capacity to handle the things that you need to handle, and it will start to alleviate the feelings of exhaustion. So now, what brings you joy? Sometimes a place to look is what you like to do when you were a child. So engaging in something, I know for me, I like blowing bubbles, I like playing jacks, I like hula hooping. I don't mind allowing myself room and space and place to play. Now, I can hear somebody right now saying, girl, we don't have time to play. And I'm saying to you, you cannot afford not to give yourself room to allow childlike, playful expression, because that is actually the easiest way to start to rebuild, replenish your capacity. Okay. Consider it to be that figurative fueling station. For some people, it's their prayer closet. For me, it is worshiping. And for other people, it is being with a special loved one that just fills their cup. And then for other people, it is finding a way to get out and play. Okay, I'm not talking about avoidance or distraction. I'm talking about what actually fills your cup. All right, so I'm going to leave it there and just say happy capacity building in terms of alleviating where you may be feeling exhausted. And so I am going to sign off for now and look forward to talking with you in the next video. But until next time, be kind.